for watching Numbskull News. And today, we're going to talk about what teams the Big 12 should get from the ACC. What's realistic? What's the most valuable? What should be the most coveted teams that the Big 12 pulls out of the ACC? We've all been talking about what the SEC is going to get, what the Big 10 is going to get, but what is the damn Big 12 going to get? What should we be targeting? What should we be looking forward to? That's what I'm going to talk about. And I'm going to use a freaking tier list because it's fun. First off, I'm putting Florida State and I'm putting Clemson in the F tier. Not because they're undesirable. It's because they're unrealistic. I know a lot of people are out there trying to say, well, look, Clemson could be left out. Florida State may not be able to get into the SEC or the Big 10. No. Those teams have way too much value. Those programs are too valuable to those two conferences. They're not going to go to the Big 12. As much as I would love that, it's not going to happen. So, in my humble opinion, I'm not wasting my time putting them in the S tier because they're not coming here. Of course, they're S tier brands for the Big 12, but realistically, there's no shot. So that's where they go. So let me start here with the Louisville Cardinals. Outstanding program, outstanding school. The viewership is outstanding in football and basketball. They bring value in both revenue generating sports. Tremendous value. No one's looking at them. They're the fourth highest revenue generator in the ACC. Huge loyal fan base. I love the thought of this program coming to the Big 12. To me, Louisville is S tier all the way. Kiss my ass on anybody else. The media doesn't want to talk about them. They just they look at them as some unsexy thing to talk about. But very quietly, that would be a powerhouse program in the Big 12. Huge addition. You know what? I'm not going to waste a lot of time talking about Stanford and Calford. There's no reason for it. If the Big 12 wanted them, they had their shot. I don't believe they want them at all. Stanford and Cal are doomed. They're doomed. Maybe one day they'll be back in the pack, the new pack. That's basically a glorified Mountain West. That's probably what's going to happen to them. And good riddance. What about Syracuse? I like that they're in New York. It's a pretty steady basketball program, I would say. Football, sometimes they surprise you and are pretty good. As a brand, I don't know. I could almost see a Washington State or maybe Oregon State level brand. I don't think the Big 12 is going to value them very highly. Nothing against these guys, nothing against Syracuse fans at all. I just don't. I think it's a rocky future. Yeah, D tier, man. That's about as good as that's going to get, unfortunately. There's been a lot of talk about Pitt. I could almost guarantee you they're going to the Big 12. Almost without a shadow of a doubt. Do I think they're the S level, the superstar tier level brand? I don't. I think they do have value. They probably have the most value for West Virginia being their main rival. As far as the Big 12, I look, they're a good basketball program. Sometimes they compete at a pretty nice level in football. But I don't know. I don't put them on that upper level. I really don't. Maybe I'm wrong for putting Pitt on the B tier. Y'all let me know if you think, that the comments are always there. If y'all think that's BS, let me know. I don't know. I just have this feeling. I think they'll go to the Big 12. I don't question that at all. I just question, I don't think I think there's teams ahead of them. I don't think they're a big priority. Let's put it that way. Let's talk about Miami. I think maybe, possibly. I don't think so. It's hard to say. I think the Big 12 would love them. I think they would be great in the Big 12. But much like Florida State and Clemson, I don't know if they're going to get there. I don't know. The way I see it, Florida State goes to the SEC, and I think the Big 10, there's all this talk about, UNC. I think they want to get into Florida, and if they don't do it with Florida, it's probably Miami. So I don't know how realistic Miami, as far as being an option for the Big 12. For no good reason, I'm going to put them in the E tier. It feels like there's a little more of a chance than Florida State or Clemson, but so I'll give them a little nod there, saying it's a little more realistic, but not much. If you follow me, let's talk about SMU. These pesky little bastards. They paid their way into the ACC, and they're going to regret it. I'm telling you right now, already, it looks like they're not going to get the full CFP share like they thought they were going to. And when the ACC goes tits up in 2027, which I assume it will, when ESPN pulls the plug, SMU is going to be kind of screwed. If the Big 12 wanted them, they would have taken them a long time ago. I say it's only about maybe a 0.1% chance they end up in the Big 12, because you never know. You never know. I just don't think that's going to happen, but I'll give them, since technically they will be an ACC team for a couple of years before the ACC collapses, I will give them the benefit of the doubt. I will say there's a slight chance of the Big 12. But don't hold your breath, SMU fans. Cross your fingers. But I know you talked a lot of crap. But I will give you a little bit of chance for survival here. Let's talk Virginia. You know what? While we're at it, let's talk also Virginia Tech. There's a narrative out there that the SEC will take Virginia and Virginia Tech. That these two were tied at the hip. You know what? Let's just go ahead and do it. Let's go ahead and bring in UNC, the Tar Heels, and let's bring in those that NC State Wolfpack. Let's go ahead and bring them in, because that's the narrative, right? Virginia, Virginia Tech, UNC, NC State. At the same time that narrative goes on, it's also being said by a lot of people that the SEC does not want to double dip in Florida or South Carolina. Maybe I can understand a little bit of South Carolina, but they don't want to double dip by getting Florida State or Miami in Florida, but they would want to double dip in North Carolina or Virginia that does not have the demographics of a North Carolina. Why? And besides the double dipping thing, you notice the SEC got two schools from Texas, and they've had two schools from Mississippi forever. They don't mind doubling down on a territory. Obviously, I think they would rather have a Florida school than get two Virginia schools. That's ridiculous. Two NC State or two North Carolina schools. I don't see that at all. I'm going to go ahead and put UNC in the A tier. Now, the only reason I'm not putting them in the S tier is because almost all the media types out there have North Carolina going to the SEC or the Big 10. I'm virtually damn near the only person on YouTube that is saying that's not going to happen. So I'm going against the grain. Look, UNC has a very respectable football program. It's not elite. It's not a premium brand. It's not a blue blood. None of that. The basketball is the bluest of the blue bloods and would fit perfectly in the Big 12. That's why I'm putting them here. They may end up in one of the big two. All right. Right now, I'm offering a counter narrative to that, so I have to take that into consideration, but I'll put them on the A tier regardless. The Wolfpack, S tier. All right. It's a really competitive football school and a competitive basketball school. You see how you get both? You know, that's why I like them. No, they're not a blue blood of any kind. They don't need to be. They're fantastic just the way they are. Virginia Tech, S tier, S tier all the way. Now, they're not as competitive in football as they once were, but we've seen them be pretty damn good. Dare I say, almost dominant. Not quite dominant, but I mean, they had an incredible run. It hasn't been that way for a while. I think they can get back there. Virginia Tech is generally a good basketball school as well. S tier. I think they still have really good brand value, and I'd love that in the S tier. I'd love it in the Big 12. But Virginia in the S tier, I think that's actually, even though there's big media people that have talked about Virginia being wanted by the SEC or possibly the Big 10, it hasn't been out there as prominently as North Carolina. All right, so I think there's more people talking out of their ass with Virginia than they are with NC State. Or sorry, than they are with UNC. So I think they're more realistic than North Carolina. So therefore, I'm putting them in the S tier. It's still a huge brand. Really good basketball school. They have sucked in football for a while. They are the top sports revenue generator in the ACC. That's worth something. We got to talk about Duke. We've got to talk about Duke. Because there is no talk of Duke going to the Big 10 or SEC at all. I mean, none. But secretly, quietly, I think this is a slam dunk, if you will, for the Big 12. Again, one of the bluest of the blue bloods in basketball. And you know what? Recently, they've become a pretty damn good football program. You know, it's kind of like adding another Kansas. Would adding another Kansas hurt the Big 12? Absolutely not. It is additive all day long. Damn it, the Devils come to the Big 12. All right, let's clean some of this other stuff up. Wake Forest, you know, it's not a bad program. It's not a bad school at all. Again, I don't know that they have the value of Syracuse. And you see where I have Syracuse. Nothing against Wake Forest. You know, I would say, can I say it's a legendary basketball program? Maybe not, but it's highly regarded. A very highly regarded basketball program. It's interesting in that aspect. I just don't know if the third tier program within the state of North Carolina, I don't know if you need a triple dip. You know, if you were able to get UNC and NC State, would Wake Forest be a priority at that point? I don't know. I'm not going to put them in the F tier, but they are a very low E tier. I don't know if there's much hope as far as Big 12 is concerned. Okay, this one is interesting. This one is interesting because, again, people talk about, well, you know, the Tar Heels need to go to the Big 10 or the SEC, and it's because of the new territory, blah, 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 or market. Can I interest you in the Atlanta market? And you know what? This is a salty basketball program, and it's a pretty damn salty football program. They're not bad. There are some people that say they're a bit of a sleeping giant. I can't disagree with that. So I don't, where to put them? That's rough. Maybe I'm talking out of my ass here, but I think that's a solid B tier school that the Big 12 should consider. I don't think that'd be a bad move at all to have Georgia Tech in the Big 12. I don't know. It seems I'm just hearing too many good things about Georgia Tech. So that's where I'm going to throw them. And we got Boston College. Boston College. Oh, Lord. Where to start? The football team. I know there must have been some point in the history of some time that Boston College had a good football program. I just don't know when that was. Basketball, they've been pretty good. All right, they're a name in basketball. I've heard of Boston College long before any of this realignment crap went on. And why should I pay attention to them at all? Because, in basketball, they've been pretty good. They've taken some rides through that tournament. So, as far as basketball, that would be a pretty good ad. I just, and the market, you're Boston, that's not bad. Getting into the Northeast, I just don't know how just adding them, I don't know where the value is here, people. I really don't. But I'm going to show them some respect. I'm going to put them on the E tier, not the F tier. Now, you may say, well, what's the difference between E and F? Why have this middle ground? Because to me, when you're in the D tier, it's probably, in this scenario, probably won't happen. It probably won't. But I will say, there's something there that's given them some type of value to go up. The difference between the E and the F. F is no way in hell, not happening. E is, there's a chance. And with the D level, I'm like, if you like kind of like squint your eyes, you can kind of see it. So, a C level to me is like, what? That could be an ad. B tier is almost a sure thing. It's just not a high priority. There's other schools that would be a higher priority than Pitt or Georgia Tech, but a very realistic possibility. I'm trying to think if we have somebody for C. Do I have a C level? As it turns out, I do have a C level, and that's Notre Dame. Now, obviously, they'd be a lot higher up, but are they ever joining the Big 12 all in? No, they're never joining a conference. And if they are, it's going to be the Big 10. They're not going to join anybody else. But for basketball and all their other teams, like the deal like they have with the ACC. So if the ACC, if ESPN gets out of there, you think Notre Dame is going to stick around for no money? No. They're going to look for a landing spot for their basketball and their other sports. The SEC is not going to do that. Neither is the Big 10. But the Big 12 would definitely do it. They would add a Notre Dame to have the same kind of deal. Play 5 games in the Big 12, plus all your basketball and all your other sports. Absolutely, the Big 12 would do that in a minute. In a freaking minute. And I think there's a realistic chance of that happening. Now, it's not a huge chance. I think it's realistic. I think there's a huge chance for Duke. I think there's a huge chance for Virginia Tech, NC State, and Louisville. I can't say that for this Notre Dame to work out a similar type of deal, a part-time member, if you will, in the Big 12 like they do with the ACC. But I can see it happening. It seems logical, and I wouldn't doubt it. So if I was more like, oh, absolutely, I would have them on the S tier in a minute. But how realistic is that? I think it makes logical sense. It could happen. I just can't say to a greater degree it'll happen. So I think the proper middle ground there is C tier. I think I broke that down about as well as I'm going to break down anything. Just remember, Louisville is a monstrous ad for the Big 12. You're probably like, Louisville? Really? Really, it is. They get outstanding ratings. They're very competitive in both revenue-generating sports. Their program generates incredible revenue. And think about it. UPS corporate headquarters is in Louisville. They've already got some deals with each other. But believe me, your mark, Endeavor can expand that. You're talking about a possible, more of a corporate alliance there than you would think. So there are real possibilities for Louisville to be incredibly additive. All right, well, that's all I got for this crap. And I will be back with some more crap later. Bye.